What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? The math teacher left his wife of 18 years for one of the graduating seniors. One year in exams days they were trying to add a new method to prevent cheating where a man from the administration comes to every class before every exam and collects students' phones while sticking a sticker with a number on each phone and giving the same sticker to the student so he can get his phone after school without anyone taking someone else's phone that looks alike or something. This was working at first and a bit preventing cheating until one day some guy sneaked into our high school and came as the man who collects the phones while he wasn't. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but when that made the news my school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. My middle school banned hugging and hand holding during course changes because it blocked the hall. In protest, all the 8th graders stood up and hugged each other during their lunch period. A bunch of students got detention. Made the cover of the Charlotte Observer. Edit. Thanks for the rewards all. I don't think I've gotten more than 100 likes or rewards before, but please spend your money on other things. People are in need this holiday season. Dude. Freshman year. A junior accused the PE teacher of sexually assaulting her after hours in the locker room. He was put on leave and eventually got off on a technicality. Senior year. There was a freak snowstorm in April, during which the quietest and nicest stoner in our class went missing. A day later they found his car in a ditch. And a week later when the snow melted, they found his body. He'd crashed and, in his presumed high-F state, gotten out to walk for help with no coat on. He eventually found a telephone pole and sat down against it to rest and was believed to have frozen to death in the storm. Seeing his mom at her only child's funeral still haunts me. The principal slept with a student and his nudes and SXTS were leaked. A student that was in the grade above me. I was a senior. There was a kid whose girlfriend brought a knife into school and planned to kill herself in the bathroom. He knew her locker combination, so he took the knife and hid it in his so she wouldn't do it and wouldn't get busted. Someone snitched on him and he got expelled for having a knife on campus. Whole town was Ed. A male gym teacher diddling some girls volleyball players. Principal got fired for threatening teachers if they didn't produce enough A's and driving a grade inflation scandal. That and the usual drugs and such. When I was in 5th grade, the male teacher I'd had in 4th grade was fired for helping a high school cheerleader undress. Looking back, he was a creeper. Edited to add. I was wrong. It was a 10-year-old. Just found it. A kid in my senior year short story class, who sat directly behind me, was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friend's drug dealer. I remember the day like it was yesterday. Sitting in my short story class when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. Crazy. Man. We had a computer teacher football assistant coach who was just blasted all day. Had so many DUIs he had to get rides to work. But was the cousin of the superintendent, so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on a super for another 2 years. This happened between my sister and brother graduating. So it would have been 1996 or 1997. The HS Ag teacher started dating a student at some point. Everyone knew about it and the parents consented. Our HS was, and is, small enough to still participate in senior trips. And the AG teacher went along as a chaperone when his GF was a senior. They shared a hotel room. When I believe the student was still technically a 17-year-old minor. At the time I remember my parents being rather put off by it. But they still hired the guy as a summer farmhand. I don't remember if he was fired or stepped down. But by the time I made it to HS we had a different ag teacher. They got married and had a child. Divorced maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Their kid goes to our HS now. I don't know why it wasn't a huge deal at the time. But no one really raised a stink or threatened to call the authorities. Today it feels like a case of grooming by a predatory farm boy. The 30ish theater teacher ran off with a recent grad. I was kind of pals with the student during a play the spring before the scandal. And she hosted the cast party where in retrospect, they seemed a little cozier than appropriate. As much as I'm dying for the inside scoop. I can't imagine friending her on social media and asking, so what was up with you and MR? Question mark? It has to be done if you want to know. The caretaker killed 2 local girls and hid them in the school. He tried using the clay kiln to burn them. Some highlights. 1. The chorus teacher got caught looking at Lolita PRN on his school computer. 2. This kid had nudes of his ex that his friend sent to a bunch of people in school. But he was 18 and she was 14 or 15. So he got expelled and I believe he was charged with distributing child pornography. We had a whole assembly because of it where the cops came and told us they could see everything on our phones. 3. A kid in my grade and another girl, same girl as in the story above, actually had sex in the bathroom. I learned about it from my band teacher. Band teacher spreading rumors, FFS not a copyright airing. Kid made a chlorine bomb and threw it in the trash can at lunch. Lockdown. Bomb squad. Every single kid and faculty member out on the field in 95 weather for 2+ hours until parents could show up to pick up their kids. The lunch lady was having sex with students and buying them alcohol. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police and we didn't have school that day and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. Edit. This was in Pennsylvania. First week of high school. Pay class. The first section was swim. Wasn't my class. But the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends and the water who could hold their breath the longest. He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter. And never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids? Our football defense coordinator molested our pet a large number of young boys of a long period of time and no one did a thing about it. A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair but that she was actually being paid by the students and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. Edit. Whoa. This has really blown up. A few people have linked articles in the comments if you are curious. Merry Christmas everyone. Probably the time a girl gave a guy a BJ in the bathroom. The guy filmed it and sent it to his friend. His friend sent all around the school. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill. Got caught with the list. And was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit. Seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. I also had a hit list in middle school because I was a dumbass. It was a group of about 30 guys that would come to school and play a kind of tag game. If you were tagged during the day, you were assassinated and the game was over until the next day. My dumbass made a hit list with everyone's name on it. Needless to say this alerted the principal. Edit. We got a talking to. But we weren't in serious trouble. One of the students wrote his own fanfic with himself and some of the younger girls. My department lead allowed the baseball team to line up and she gave them all blowjobs. Happened years ago and confirmed by veteran co-workers I knew. Recently, some of the boys that graduated years ago decided to inform the proper authorities. She was transferred to another school. Still works in the district. 2 teen pregnancies. Same dude. History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife, and the other French teacher made national news for sorely abusing boys. My graphics teacher was married to my maths teacher. And one night he killed her during a domestic dispute. She was apparently having an affair and started taunting him about it in an argument while waving a fire poker at him. He grabbed it off her, hit her over the head and killed her. He was sent to prison for manslaughter, not murder, as the court accepted there was no premeditation. My mum was also a teacher at the school and friends with both of them, so it had a big impact on my family as well as the school. Overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't, end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to do. The balance of genius is on a very thin edge. This kid was taking his GCSEs, important exams in England, until you get older and realize they mean all. Whilst at an exam, some kids got onto his phone, went onto his notes and found a 4,000 word document consisting of his sexual fantasies with other girls in his year. Clearly paid attention in English, as there was some clever wordplay comparing his cock to some world famous landmarks. The screenshots found their way into a lot of group chats. There were about 20 odd screenshots. To put into context how long it was, and it basically acted as a vague repellent for the rest of his time at the school. During middle school, a few kids sold weed and someone that bought some smoked it in the building, which was just stupid. The kid that sold it to him didn't want to get in trouble, so he pulled the fire alarm so people wouldn't find the kid. Honestly, that's some pretty quick thinking. Obviously not very responsible. My high school guidance counselor read a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day. And students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. Kids are brutal. Long story short, the principal got arrested for hiding cameras in the bathroom. This was back in elementary. He was a total line creep. The Harlem Shake was a craze. We had an teacher who desperately enjoyed being the popular teacher, so he got in on the craze. Invited 40 pupils from my year to his classroom at lunch and filmed his own Harlem Shake video, which in itself would have been against safeguarding rules. Thing is, he also taught sex ed. So everyone got into his cupboard before the start of the video for props. The video was essentially a group of 14-year-olds throwing dildos and condoms around the room while he, of his own accord, grinded on a life-size cutout of the poop. He was suspended under investigation for half a year but surprisingly kept his job. He was a lot more professional when he returned. A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago. But the parents haven't had another child since. She was their only kid. Back in high school, the entire football team was almost expelled because one girl gave blowjobs to every single one of the players in the locker rooms. Supposedly they were all in a circle and the girl was just going around to each person. The kicker? The girl's brother was on the team. And he let it happen. Edit. Everyone's asking. But it's my understanding that the brother didn't partake in it. But he was effectively forcing her to not stop until she was done with everyone. The team ended up not getting in any major trouble. But the girl was suspended for a good minute. What a lovely brother. I assume he didn't get involved? A video leaked of a girl eyeing herself with a spatula. We called her Spatula Girl. Funny at the time. Makes me feel bad now. Edit. Some dude with a tiny little pecker sent a picture of it, unsolicited, to a girl. And she sent it to all his friends. Wasn't long before like half the school had seen it. A teacher was found having sex with a student on a table in the lunchroom. The student was in 8th grade and her parents knew about it. These are just getting more add up SMH. My former high school got on the news for having a history teacher lie for 4 years about being a decorated war hero. Guy claimed to have not one, but 2 Purple Hearts, among other things, and never even served a day in the military. Edit. I can't directly link to articles because of doxing, but I'm sure you can find it on Google. Close bracket. But it gets juicier. The truth came out because his ex-wife exposed him, sending evidence he was making it all up to local news stations and the school. Why'd she do it? The history teacher was having an affair with another teacher in my school. We had a lot of weird teachers at my school, but I think this story shows just how much the administration hardly vetted teachers. Like holy. We also had a guidance counselor get the boot for being a racist. But that's another story that didn't get as much publicity. 3 come to mind. 1. Principal of the HS and director of athletics got caught embezzling money from the school to their bank accounts. They got caught after $50,000 went missing from the school's bank. 2. Bomb threat. Got switched whenever we went in. Metal detectors. Bomb dogs. The works. 3. Couple kids invited an African American into their Twitter group called Golfenners and were saying stuff like repeal the 13th to her. She tracked down the school and made a complaint. Made local news. Edit. We had a few. Some standouts. Student hid a pregnancy from her parents. She ended up giving birth at home and killed the baby. Teacher sexually harassed students. Students engaged in sexual acts at the nearby church, where all our masses occurred, and we, the student body, were then banned for having our masses at the church. Edit. A few people are mentioning some cheerleader who had been on the news. This was the early 2000s. It did not have news coverage, didn't even go beyond our school. And our school did not have cheerleaders. Edit 2. This was in Canada. Edit 3. I've learned through this thread that this is not an uncommon occurrence. And my heart hurts. When I was in 3rd grade, I believe, one of the principals at my school got arrested for disability fraud or something like that. Then when I was in the 7th grade, one of the teachers got arrested for being a pedophile. A girl gave a guy a BJ behind a building. Her braces got stuck on his dick. He pulls back. Dick bleeding. Punches her in the mouth. She goes and tells the principal. Parents get called in. He yells, "She cut my dick," while the door was open. Everyone knew then. When in middle school, the school forced us to give our phones to the vice principal, and they would stay there locked during the day. They got stolen. Around 120 smartphones. Edit. My religion teacher was relocated after rumors spread that he sexually harassed a female student and hit a male student. I never found out if those rumors were true, but I mean there had to be something because teachers don't just get relocated in the middle of a school year. He was an ass. I wouldn't put it past him. In Germany it's super hard to get fired as a teacher. I think you'd need a prison sentence to actually get fired. One of the female gym teachers at my HS got arrested for doing drugs on campus. Girl A decided to fight Girl B in class. Girl A ripped Girl B's real hair out, broke her nose, and crippled her. Girl B was sent to the emergency room. Girl A was suspended for 2 weeks. They were both in 7th grade. The entire 11th grade of my school visits a concentration camp each year. And 2 years ago someone brought weed. So 20 students were expelled and 15 suspended. Even the police got involved. Weed isn't legal yet here. Physical education teacher hit the principal on the head because he protested the students being treated roughly during sports class. Sophomore year, a girl in my grade passed on a solid yellow up a hill. Hit a family in a car and killed both parents and one of the kids. A week later she's back at school in a brand new pickup truck. And never faced any sort of trial or anything. Her parents were extremely large farmers in the small rural town and had influence in the local court systems, I'm sure. Oh, did I mention she excitedly showed off her new truck when she came back? You. Taylor was my favorite science teacher. It was a couple years after I graduated, but the principal was caught giving money to gang kids and was demoted. When the religion teacher cheated on her husband with the math teacher. Reading these and I think the scandals that happened at my school are minor in comparison. The ones I know of were: a kid was busted having into the system trying to change his grades. I think there was a claim of computer addiction, but he wasn't allowed on a school computer for the rest of his time at the high school. A teacher was known for trying to pick fights with students. I called out his bull and he was given a slap on the wrist, but he didn't try it again after that. There was a student who was accused of having a bomb that was a complete fabrication. Outcome was ridiculously blown out of proportion. The guy was a bit of an outsider and had made a duct tape top hat. Someone made a sarcastic comment about him smuggling a bomb in it. He responded in same level of sarcasm. One girl literally kicked on a guy's balls so hard that he had to be hospitalized. The girl was 15. The boy was 11. Two things. Both in middle school. 1. I was at home on a Sunday watching the news with my mom when all of a sudden my 6th grade teacher's mugshot showed up and it said that her and her husband were pulled over and the police found like 6 pounds of high grade weed. Lead to a search warrant for their home and they literally slept on her inflatable mattress. The whole house was a grow up. She did look like a hippie, but I don't understand. She was not mellow at all. She was a bitch. 2. In 8th grade. One of my friend's parents had cancer. He thought it was a good idea to bring some of their meds to school and hand them out like candy. These were strong meds. And not all of them were pain pills. At least 5 kids overdosed, 2 of them had seizures. No one died, thankfully. Edit. I know my grammar isn't the best. I'm no English major, but goddamn people. This is Reddit, not my English paper. I still get where you're coming from though. So I fixed it. Kind of. One weekend a couple of kids from the hockey team had a sleepover. One of the older boys from high school targeted them. He tied them up, arped them, slit their throats and set the house on fire. One of the boys survived and is an incredible person. He's the chief of the fire department and has done motivational speaking. The murderer is now out on full parole. Had a strict dress code that if the girls broke had to change into clothes provided by the school. Turns out vice principal had a camera going in the dressing room. When I was in grade 9 back in 2009 there was a whole school fight that lasted the whole break into the next session. There were even 3 teachers involved. The injury rate was ridiculous. There was over 15 broken noses, 2 broken ribs and some stretched their optical nerve. A teacher and a student were having sex in the classroom which had a window wall. A whole bunch of people saw and watched it. There was once a fight between 2 guys. One guy DDT the other guy 3 times on tiles. He lost his gold tooth. Someone stole it and came back a week later with the gold tooth in his mouth. Those are the first that came to mind. Not that scandalous. A friend's stuff kept going missing. Like books and pens. It didn't stop even after multiple complaints from him and the teachers didn't really care. His mom screamed at the teachers and the principal did her own investigation and concluded that it was a boy who stole from that guy. The principal decided to call the male student's parents to talk to them. After a year, it turns out that the thief was a girl and she yeeted the guy's stuff out the window because the guy was bullying her. Someone shat in the band room. One of the teachers brought a gun. One teacher had a fight, physical, with a kid. One teacher dated a student. I live in Florida.